thank you, Carol, who's not here, who's the whole godmother of this complex and craft in America. I also want to thank Alex and Brenda and Alejandra. She's around somewhere. They were very instrumental in helping me put up this wall. It was an experience that moved me because of the young folk, the young middle school kids and the high school kids, and I think I think what happened to the young kids is they felt a little bit more confident after this experience about the future, and I think they got a lot of hope. What I noticed in the high school kids, they got more confident, and I think that was the success of this exhibition, that we affected, it takes a village, we affected like the minds of 30 young individuals that will hopefully contribute to the wonderful existence on this planet. And I encouraged them and I implored them, and I think they got that message. And so for me, that was way, way beyond what I thought I was going to be doing 50 years ago when I was picking crops up and down California. Here, I love the land. I love the people. I love the flowers, the flora and fauna. You see the tracks of all the critters we don't see that are affected by this wall. So I think my wall installations, I've done I think 10, or somebody said 11 or something like that, all around the country. What I'm doing, to me, it celebrates, what do they call, remember that movie, The Agony and the Ecstasy, of our borderland experience. But I think the most important thing I remember from this experience will be when the little 6th and 8th graders came. Then the question came, do you have any questions or comments for Consuelo? And all the kids went silent, of course. And then Jose, he must have been about 10 or 11. So, what's your husband up to nowadays? That was the cutest, most, I'll never forget that question from an audience, okay? And I went, I'm so glad you mentioned him. He's right here. He wasn't here at the time, but from then on, I don't even remember what happened, but before I knew it, it was over. So, yeah, there's the husband. There's my brother-in-law, who we've been together for how long, Marcos? 40, 50 years? 50 years. So hopefully his daughters and grandkids will come later on. So anyway, I'm number 11 of 12, and I was born in Sacramento. And we would, like I said, travel up and down. I know California. I used to know Highway 99 because that's what we would travel until we found a good farm, and then we'd pick. So I love the land. Even though it was a very harsh lifestyle, I realized that I was young. I realized that at some point I was not going to be told what to do anymore. When I was going to be 18, I was going to be free. And so very young, I decided that I was going to do my life in 10-year plans, decades. So every beginning of each decade of my life, which happened to coincide with regular, I was born in 1949. So it was easy to go 1950, 1960, 1970, and make up these 10-year goals, and then trek through time to achieve them. So I have to say I'm very blessed that I've achieved, I would say a lot of my goals I've achieved. I don't even know what to ask for anymore except for time to create these lovelies. I think I'm bipolar because I love this activity, this very active way of making an artwork and then letting it go away. I love this type of art where it's fast, it's quick, it's painting, But I also love this tedious work that these works take 6 months. Always I plan 2 seasons for one of my weavings. Between the two, there's life in the middle, of course. I retired from San Jose. I was there you're looking at the fiber art department of San Jose for 20 years, but I retired like 5 years ago. And then I was telling Pat that, ever since then I learned how to cook. I learned how to relax, because believe me, being a professor and an artist in the United States is really a challenge. It's a challenge to do both and to have a family life. So somehow, and I think it's because of the strength of the family, that I did it. I achieved both goals, which was the 10-year full-time track and to be in my goal as an artist, believe it or not, was to be a footnote in history. And so I achieved that. So everything now seems to be like dessert. So this is something that I can actively enjoy, is to go around the country making these borderlines. Usually it's the wall installations that excite me now. I know if I make beautiful work like this with the contacts that we've made over the years, I know it'll be exhibited. But the challenge for me is, well, who's going to want the wall next? And so far, I've been very lucky in that I've been asked to do the wall, as opposed to, hello, would you like a wall? So, what do I want to do with this wall besides bring the villagers together? Is to unite nations, stand up for the unseen, the invisible flora and fauna of the borderlands, and to give citizens and folk a way to understand the borderland phenomena without having to get so political. If we can just focus on the land and its critters and the flowers. And the flowers are, to me, the young folk. I asked the young Clinton 6th to 8th graders if they would make me flowers, spirit flowers, to kind of live amongst the real flowers of today, which are the ones that I made, are the ones with color. The Clinton children did the white ones, and they are very expressive and very beautiful. And it seemed to go perfectly with my wall. Even those wands that are the power wands, those were deliberately intended so that the high schoolers can empower themselves through their life. Yes. Yes, and please, if there's any comments or questions, stop me.
One of the Clinton students.
Okay, Clinton said, he has a question. Do you have a question?
We just wanted to note that he's here.
Oh, that he's here. Okay. Yeah. And what's your name? Yes. What is your name?
Jonathan.
Jonathan. Okay, Jonathan. And which one is your flower?
Over there.
Can you tell us what it's about? Why you did it the way you did it?
I made it with flowers, tiny flowers like these, and I made these. Then I had another help with my teacher.
To construct it. Do you have a name for that flower?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. Any questions for the artist? Or comments?
How long did it take you to make it?
Not long.
I have a question.
Yes.
Did you have an idea of the whole thing, how it was going to look, or did you just kind of start and see what would happen next?
Mm-hmm.
That way, the second way? Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Did it make you like, did you like art before doing that?
Yeah.
Did it make you like it more, or you just want to keep doing different art?
Yeah, keep doing it.
Well, good for you. Good for you. Thank you. So you can see where art does affect society. Art does bring people together. And art is a power. And that's what I felt as a young person. If the doctor, lawyer, whatever you are, I thought that artists were the most special because they could bring the mystical into the mundane. And I always felt that that was the primary task of artists, was to blend the two, to bring the two energies together so that more folk can enjoy the quiet, powerful energy of the flowers, for example, to feel the breeze of the wind and get strong again. That's what I thought artists were doing and should do. Up until, and then a while, like maybe like 5 years ago, then it dawned on me that these border walls and other artists were not just here to represent reality and not to do just what I was saying. It's not a just, it's a big deal. But I think more importantly, artists are here to bring a new vocabulary to our current reality. And the vocabularies that we create is a new way to speak about long issues that have always been with us. And one of the things that is the most successful for me is this border wall. It's a very contentious idea, but the way I present it and the way we present it as a village, it's a beautiful thing. So how does we make that leap? Well, that's up to the viewer. Now this is the borderline, and people ask me, what about the nails? What about the nails? Well, I made this first borderline, I think it was in 2006, 2007, somewhere in there. I made this border, the first one at the TRITON Museum. And at the time where the nails are, and I've identified the locale of the nails by the names of the town where the wall is made, when I made this borderline, the first one, that where the nails are, that's where the wall was already under construction. So as you can see, Arizona and California are very dense. And Texas pretty much said, leave Texas alone. So they're still working it out on the courts. But between then and now, I'm sure there's other new border lines that are being constructed, but I'm not putting them in because I just don't want to keep up with the latest and the greatest. So I stay with these border points. And if you notice, on each borderline, like I said, there's a vertical image. And what's that image of? I went to Nogales, Mexico, and I went to Nogales, Arizona, in that border town, and I went to a grocery store on both sides, and I went to where they sell the Mexican condiments, and sure enough, they were identical. The products, even their layout, was identical on both sides. So I took a photograph of them, and then I sliced them up, and then I machine embroidered the names of the different border points where the wall is constructed so that people can get an idea of the town. And for example, the one on the very end is Tijuana and San Diego. This one is, what is that? El Paso, yep. And here's Brownsville down here. So you can go around, the viewer can go around and figure out, well, you know, where are we? What is this place? And a lot of the immigrants, they, like I remember, that's where I met my husband, Calexico, Mexicali, over there. And so it is a map, but it's a beautiful map of land and flower, and don't forget the little critters who don't have documentation. So they just go down and they can't go anywhere else, or they come up. I made a borderline in Reno, and they have a Black Mountain Reserve in Reno, a preserve, I mean. And in the middle of this beautiful desert area, there's this black rock that shoots out. So doing my research, I found out that that black rock is like a destination point for a lot of mammals and critters that come all the way from the northern part of Mexico, and they do their migratory paths up to Reno and back. So we certainly destroyed that one, and that was the first time I did the border tracks, because I didn't realize all the way up here, they migrate all the way from the central northern part of Mexico all the way to Reno, and then they come back down. And so I went, oh my gosh, how many other animals are doing this? And I know they're not documented. And that's what started this whole thing, was the undocumentation, but it was the flowers more than anything. As a child, because the life was so hard, I hated flowers. I thought, what are you doing here in my world that's so horrible? How can you be so pretty and sing to me when you see that I'm suffering? You know, this is me talking to the flowers. So I had issues with beauty and flowers. And, you know, you grow up and it's okay, it's all right. Come on, team, fight, fight, fight. But then my granddaughter was born, and they named her Xochitl, which means flower song. Flower, Xochitl, my dad wanted to call me that, but my mom said it was too much of an Indian name, so they named me Consuelo, and they called her Xochitl. Xochitl, flower, oh my God, I love flowers. And that's when I started using flowers in most all of my work, you know, really bringing in the beauty and their power. They're just powerful because they grow anywhere, in between sidewalks, on the edges of cliffs. I mean, anywhere you look, there's going to be a little flower blooming. And that to me is struggle for survival. It's energy of life. And then it's beautiful. And they don't require anything except, can you not step on me or give me a little water? Basically. So with the borderline coming on, I've always been intrigued with the border ever since I was a kid, because we had to cross the border many times during the year. And my mom had property in Mexicali and also in Calexico and also in Sacramento. So guess what? We would always be traveling back and forth. When I did my first borderline, I went, I want to show what happens to the state border flowers, because I know that the California poppy grows on both sides of the border. All of our state flowers, the California poppy, the saguaro from Arizona, the yucca from New Mexico, and the Texas bluebonnet, they all grow on both sides. And then I went, but they're not documented. Some of them might be illegal. I got it. I'll make a borderline and I'll show people how ridiculous it is. Are we going to document the flowers and the animals too? Or just the people? Right? That's the crux of the borderline, or the borderline installation. This one I call undocumented border tracks. And you can see the main star of the show, you can barely see him. You have to look at this and then see the tracks that are undocumented. Any questions or comments before I stop talking? You want to hear anything more about borderline? Because I want to talk about this too, and I know I don't have much time. So any questions or comments on the borderline?
What animals are those tracks?
This is the mouse. That's the mule deer. It's basically the cougar, the mule deer, the mouse. And there was another deer, and there was another print that you brought in, Brenda.
Gray wolf.
The gray wolf. Which one is that one? Do you know that one?
Gray wolf is this, the green bluish one here over there. We have the jaguar, and then we have the bighorn sheep, which is the two. It's like two groups.
Okay.
Bigger one. You can see that there, and it's mostly covered.
Okay, because I know of the mule deer and the kit mouse. I have my bag of my little critters, and Brenda was going to help me with the wall, and I said, "You bring in your critters." So she did, and thank you, Brenda. Yes.
You started to talk about the wands.
Yes, the power wands. Oh yeah, it's a cool project, and I thought of it on the fly. What do we have the high schoolers do? I don't know. Well, my first wall, I made power wands for my first wall, and these are mine. If you look at the wands, some are made with barbed wire. Those are the ones that I make, and they were to represent. If you're walking along the desert, you know, you're going to pick up bottle caps, old pieces of, and they're, to somebody like me that doesn't have anything, wow, what a cool bottle cap. It has the place of a moon on it. You know, that's the kind of stuff we look at when we don't have money to go shop in shopping centers. So we look at the ground and see what's going on. And so these are the little relics that I imagined I would find if I was to be walking the border. Okay, that's mine. But for the high schoolers, I'm not going to tell them that. You know, I'm not going to relate to them and have them be me. No. You guys are young. You're on your way up. You need to know the power of the tree. So let's get a branch. Now you need to know yourselves. There's your body, there's your mind, and there's your heart. What makes those things tick? And of course it came with a big lecture of an artist is somebody who knows themselves. Know thyself. You have to know yourself before you can be, this is my philosophy, an artist. And I always have that story of Picasso. Picasso was, you all know Picasso. I never understood his art. As a young person, it was like, really? As a grown-up though, I was like 25. I remember seeing a documentary on Picasso. And Picasso was like, he was relating his first drawing experience, which was his father taught art in a junior high. They raised pigeons. And so what Picasso's father took him out for a walk to see the pigeons, got a pigeon, tied the legs together, cut them off, and he gave them to the 2 or 3 year old Picasso. And he said, draw this. That was his first drawing lesson. And then he said, that's why when he got older, he drew like a kid. Because he never could draw like a child. And when he started drawing like a kid, that's when I started paying attention to him, and that's when I was going, who is this guy? Why is he drawing like this? When I saw the video, then I realized, I got it. And then he said the most important story, which really struck to me, was his mother. It says, son, if you're going into the army, general. If you're going into the priesthood, pope. So I became an artist. Picasso. The hardest thing is to put yourself out there for the public to see. What usually you put out there is stuff that you think the public wants to see. You're getting close, but it ain't the real thing until you put what you need to put up there. That's the artist. So how do you get there? And that was the power wand experience for these high schoolers. You got to know who you are. You got to know what makes your brain want to learn more. You have to learn what inspires your heart to go beyond the call of working 8 to 5 and then working 7 to 10 on something like that. And you have to learn what your body needs. And then the story would be about the great mystical shaman of the country, and he's getting old and he needs to retire. And so the call goes out to the kingdom, okay, all you young upstart shamans or whatever you want to call yourself, this old geezer needs to get off the chair, so come on down. So all these young monks and priests and shamans or whatever they want to call themselves, they come in before the master, and the master's sitting here. And the first one makes himself invisible. The master yawns. The next one comes up, and he floats. The master is tired. And then another one comes, and they do all their little, their tricks. Finally, this one young person comes up, and he sits in front of the master and does nothing. The master says, "What's your gig? What is your claim to fame?" And the young man said, "When I'm tired, I sleep. And when I'm hungry, I eat." Young man, he gets up, "You can have my seat." So the kids loved this story, the high schoolers. And I told them, you have to know what makes you tick. And how are you going to know that? Well, hopefully these power wands will help you. Because I want you to put up there in your power wands things that make your body feel strong, your mind alert, and your heart. What do we want our heart to be? One young lady said, "I wanted to make it between my mom and my dad, who love each other dearly." I was to be like, "Oh my God, that is so cool. Look at how beautiful." She put little flowers. And then I said, "Okay, once you have your elements and what you like about your world and your existence, you have to put up there something else. An image of an elder who immigrated to this country." Because I know all of us have immigrated to this country. And sure enough, they all have their image up there. They all know their roots. They all know their powers. And that was the assignment of the power wand. And we have the statements here because we had them come in yesterday to not only talk, we filmed them, we had them talk about their power wand, and also, where would you like it? So they placed all their power wands, and Brenda and the staff helped them nail it to the wall. Isn't that cool? They were so confident. They were so happy. It was really, really exciting. So what do you want to do when you're going to go to college? All of them want to go to college. One of them wanted to be a mathematician. Another wanted to do the writing. And another one, I don't know what they were, but it was just really, sociology, I think, was another one. And I was like, yes, 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 yes. So that's what the power wands are about. And it was wonderful. And you know what? I'm going to do this in Tulsa with a women's group. This like the ones that don't go to prison, but they go to kind of like a halfway program. And I'm going to be doing that power wand with them in Tulsa. And I think that's going to be phenomenal because it'll be the same idea, but of course they're going to look a lot different. So I love that the way they fall into the wall. It's like they belong there. And I kind of knew it was going to happen, but I didn't know it was going to happen. But it did happen. They're wonderful, yeah. They make, for me, the flowers and the wands are the star of the show, and of course, the threads. I love threads. All of these things are threads to me. I could see mostly anything, and I know I could weave it. Yes?
What about the beads?
Oh, the beads. Yes, the beads. Thank you, Marcos. See those cool jewelry beads? They're very bright and colorful. Well, we would go to the fiestas in Sonora for over a couple of decades. And in those 3-day rituals, people come and go, but the diehards stay the whole 3 days and 3 nights, solid. And you know who the diehards were besides the ritualists themselves? It was the old ladies, 80, 90-year-old ladies that were decked out in full traditional dress. And you know they were there during the early 1900s and the wars when they were being persecuted, and they survived. And they were just dressed to the hilt with beads. bands of these beads on their arms, wearing them. And I didn't like jewelry up until that time. I was like, oh, I don't want jewelry. But then I saw these old ladies just dolling themselves up for that 3-day festival. It was so cool. And then, as time went on, they started going away. They passed on. Now, I'm the elder. I'm the old lady. And so, to honor them and remember them, because most of them are now passed on, I put their jewelry on the borderline, because they were on the front line back in the day when they weren't fighting these with treaties and documents. They were fighting for this line with guns and who knows what else. So that's what the beads are for. And I'm glad you brought that up, because they're very important. When I put them on there, I feel like they're here and they're celebrating with me the songs of the universe, which are the flowers, young folk, and all these other wonderful little critters. Any other comments on the wall?
Is there significance to the placement of the wands on one side of the border or the other from the kids?
No, we told them wherever. Some kids insisted. My family came from, I think it was El Salvador, and he wanted to make it low and then go under the border. He was insistent on that. And another one, their parents came from some part over there, but some of them had a reason, and the other ones just, I guess they just wanted the placement. And we encouraged them. We can go up, and only the frailest little girl went up there. And now all the big guys, they were all here, but she was like up there. It was very sweet. I mean, things you don't expect, that's what children are. And I think as we get on in our years, we forget that, And I was reminded again, hadn't worked with students in a couple of years, so it was very interesting to rediscover that wanting to know and wanting to learn. Of course, I never taught young people. Fortunately, unfortunately, I was hired to teach at the San Jose State University, right into the college crowd kids. And it was fun because my daughter and my son had just left to UCLA and went to Stanford, so the house was empty. And all of a sudden I have a classroom full of 20-year-olds. Oh my gosh, didn't I just get rid of you guys? And here they were. So I had them for like 20 years. Enough already, I said. I want to do this. Because as soon as I started teaching, I learned how to spin and weave with Joan Austin at San Diego State University. She's the one that took me under her wing and pushed me through the border, because she saw where I was coming from. But she took me everywhere. She became my mentor. She would have these visits with her friends and her and curators, and she'd bring me along. And that's how I learned how to cross that border and speak with anyone, actually. And it was Joan Austin. But she also taught me how to spin, how to weave, how to dye. And I wanted to do all of that because I wanted to be an artist like Emily Dickinson. Never leave my house. Just put out some really cool things, and maybe people would leave me money and food. That's what I thought I was going to be as an artist. But it was pretty evident in undergrad and in graduate school that no. Consuelo, anybody can shadow an egg if they practice. And anybody can do this if they want to and they give themselves 6 months. But how many can put this into history? That's the artist. So I never could call myself an artist until I got the MFA, the Mighty Fine Artist degree. Then I said, I'm an artist. And now I can do whatever I want without having to be under the auspices of a professor. Ironically, the first thing I did was get a job as a professor. I thought I was going to teach convalescent homes, private schools, my garage, and if I couldn't get a job, it was going to be, I was going to have the best taqueria you ever saw. So hopefully, if you see me again, I hope you do, it'll either be in another setting like this or it'll be in a taqueria. And I guarantee you, they'll be the best tacos ever. Anyway, I have to wrap it up now. Oh, no. She wants, let's talk about this work now. Okay. All right. So what am I doing here? Remember the drought? Remember the drought of for 2 or 3 years ago? We were in drought land, severe. And I remember last, it was around March or April. And I went, oh my gosh, we have a drought. Oh my gosh, and I'm going to weave something for Consuelo? No. We have to weave something for the rain serpent, the mother rain. We have to weave something for her, make it like a prayer, and maybe she'll listen to us, and then maybe rain will come. So sure enough, that's the portrait, the one behind the camera. That was the mother rain serpent portrait as a rebozo. And what I did is I e-cotted the warp, and then I wove with metallic and linen. It's mostly linen. Every inch I put a little strand of my own dyed silk just to count, because in rebozos, you know, they have that horizontal pattern that transfers from the bottom to the top. And then in the top up there, I made a portrait of her face where the rain is created before it falls down as we see it at the bottom. And why do I call it the rain serpent? Because a lot of indigenous folk believe that the rain is close to the serpent. So I went, okay, let's make a portrait in the form of a rebozo for the mother rain serpent. Sure enough, I was like halfway done and the rain started coming. It's so cool. And I kept weaving and the rains kept coming. And I went, okay, this is so beautiful up there, because that was the last part, was the head. And I went, you know what? I want more rain. And this was like around the end of December. I went, I'm going to weave, what's that? I'm going to weave it in another rebozo. Her head, I'm going to take that idea and put it in this idea. Still in the form of the rebozo. Why do I keep saying the rebozo? Because that's what made me want to weave as a kid. I remember when we would go to Mexicali, there was a lot of refugees from central and interior Mexico, of all the Indians and indigenous people that were being pushed out of their lands by the Mexicans. So they'd go to the border town of Mexicali and beg. The women, Indian women, would always wear a beautiful, always old and with holes, rebozo. And they would have the little kid in there, but that was their signature clothwear, was the rebozo. And I went, when I grow up, I want to make one of those, because I remembered hearing that they make them. They make their own rebozo. And to me, to be such a poverty person and yet to have the richness of how to create a real rebozo, it was like an oxymoron. Does not compute, does not compute. When I grow up, I'm going to make rebozos. I'm going to learn how to weave and make a rebozo. So I did. I learned how to do it, and now I'm making rebozos for the elements. And I have another series of rebozos but I made a rebozo for the Mother Earth, the Mother Moon, the Mother Ocean, etc. So on this one, I made it for the Mother Rain, and in here was the portrait of, I call this one Inside the Rain. The most beautiful part for me of water was when I would see it, was that in every drop there was this rainbow. I was like, so I would love to water just so I can see hundreds of rainbows splash before it goes to the ground, especially when the sun would shine on them. So I wanted you to feel that. I wanted to feel it. So this is the closest I can come to being inside of such beautiful rain. And I think it's okay. And then if you look carefully in the clouds, you might see the rain serpent mother. Isn't she beautiful? So that's what this work is about. And of course, the rain is falling on the beautiful landscape. And how do we know it's a rebozo? Because of the fringe. And in that one, I put the fringe, abstracted it, but it still is the fringe. The green piece. I always had difficulty with Father, Son. I thought I was three. I thought I was going to hear woman, man, mom, daughter, something. Genderless Holy Ghost? Wait a minute. That always bothered me. What about the woman? Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost? So this one, I've always thought about that. The other thing that always was curious to me in the borderland mind of Consuelo was how the sombrero was this macho cowboy Texas Ranger hat gear. It's from Mexico. You go to Mexico, they're not wearing them. Some do. Mostly are wearing baseball caps. And I had a wall in Syracuse last year, and that was where baseball caps come from, because all the milk industry workers and owners, and they all wear baseball caps in Syracuse. So I call this the Father, Son, and the Holy Rebozo. I had to force my 3 cents into your face. And in this day and age, I think we all can relate to that statement in one way or another. The last piece, Guadalupe. And Guadalupe, I don't know, how many of you know or do not know of her? That's a better question. Who do not know? Guadalupe? Okay. She's the earth deity for the pre-Mexicans, before Aztecs. She's been around for a long while. And she's like the Mother Earth icon. And they have a huge statue of her in the Mexican Anthropology Museum, and her diameter is like 15 feet, and she goes up like 20 feet. And for me, the most incredible thing about her, not just her ugly face, not just her horrific feet, but that she wore a skirt made of serpents, water. But I didn't know that at the time. I just thought, serpents, wow. And if they're alive and you're rocking and rolling, holy Toledo, that must be an incredible image. But the most important thing about Guadalupe is that 13 years after Cortés went to Mexico, supposedly that's when the Virgen de Guadalupe appeared on the temple that was for Guadalupe. So I went, I got it. Of course the New World is not going to accept some hideous, ugly-looking mama as a deity. They're going to want the pretty one. And the pretty one is beautiful. Why? Because for me, what I see when I see her, I see the heavens as her shawl. I see the dress as the earth. I see the moon, that she is above the moon. And I love most of all that the squalling brat, the little angel, is holding her up. And she never moves. The most important part is that they say that the black ribbon that you usually see on the Virgen de Guadalupe sculpture is a signature for pregnancy. And that's why there's a little pregnancy on the eagle there going on with Guadalupe. And if you see the Guadalupe, she doesn't care about what flag it is. To her, it's the land. We care that that's a US and a Mexican flag merged together, yep. And Guadalupe is still there. The elements of Guadalupe, the eagle, the serpent, the cactus, they're still there. I know that if I don't have food, I can go to a cactus plant and I can have food. That's that last piece. So as I think of, okay, I'm going to have to get ready for that next wall installation, I'll be working on this. And then I also have miniature little tapestries that I work on. So what am I saying? I'm saying that I'm going berserker, obsessed. I remember when I first was challenged by one of my graduate committee members at San Jose State. See, I went to San Diego State. I learned from Joan Austin how to make weavings like this, like that, like Cranbrook, because she comes from the Cranbrook dynasty. So I learned form. I learned tightness. And then I get my MA there, and I go to San Jose State and get my Mighty Fine Artist degree, and they go form, next. Where is the context? Where is the content? And I went, most people would have went, oh my God, I can't do that. I went, wow. That means 90% of these artists, they either learn content or form. They excel in one or the other. I'm going to excel in both and take it somewhere. One of my committee members challenged me, Consuelo, aren't you getting, because I was adamant it was going to be with weaving, right? Consuelo, aren't you getting obsessed with weaving? You should try painting, just for a semester. Not to mention the ones from the foundry. You should learn how to pour, because I bet your weavings would look great in metal. I'm like, oh my God, no. So when that professor challenged me, I went, yeah, but would you have told Van Gogh, you're too obsessed with painting, you should weave? And the professor answered back, yes, but Van Gogh changed painting. And I went, well, I'm going to change weaving. And that was in 1981. And I never looked back. I graduated in March. I was going to graduate in June. In March, they took me into the office and they said, do you want the full-time tenure track for the fall? And I went, oh no, I was going to be a star. I was going to weave. I was going to weave my way to the footnote. And I said yes. And the big draw to be a professor was tenure. And I remember walking out asking my fellow professor there, what's tenure? Because I was on my way to have a taqueria, because I didn't think I was going to get the job at the combo, you know. What's tenure? Consuelo, you got to be famous to do that. Don't worry about it. I went, oh man, because he was tall. He just took the fun out of it, out of being famous. In 10 years, because remember we have a decade, I got tenure and full-time. And I said, I want to go. I did it. And they said, if you go, we'll close the department. You can't do that. Yes, we can. I have resumes here from Cranbrook, from Boston, from CCA, all these young, lovely ladies, and they're super talented. They need a job. Nope, you go, we quit. I stayed 10 more years. I buried my mom, I buried my dad. And at 10 years, I said bye in March. In June, they sold everything. But Consuelo had to make these, and she needs to make more. So I don't look back. Because if I hadn't done that, I would still be making rebosos with safety pins. Any questions or comments? Because I think we're getting to the end here.
How long does it take to do
6 months. I give them 2 seasons. I just plan out 2 seasons. I can only do 2 a year. Hopefully I can weave for 10 more years. So if I come out with 20 masterpieces, that's not bad. And then when I can't weave anymore, I tell people, I'll paint. That should be easy.
Also, how did you decide to go to how did you decide which school to go to for your art degree?
Oh, that was a fun experiment. That was such a cool social experiment. So I'm good. We're in San Diego. There's only San Diego State there. And then you come over here, CCA, San Francisco State University. And there's the Art Institute. Wow! And there's San Jose State. Okay, so let's check them all out. I go to San Jose State. No, San Francisco. San Francisco, everybody's teachers, students, they're just walking like this. You know, they don't see anything or anybody except their clock and where they're going to go. And then I go to CCA. And it seemed like everybody there was a little hiding, trying to not be seen. The art people, I'm just checking out art people. You know, because they're probably into their art in their head, or I don't know why. And then I go to the Art Institute. Oh my gosh. Everybody was walking around like they had a glass dome on them. I am the artist. They'd pose, they'd walk, and they would pose, you know. And this is back, 20 years ago. I don't know what they're doing now, but that was the sense I got. And then I go to San Jose State, the home of the Doobie Brothers. Literally, across the street. That's where the band was formed. Those folks, because it seemed like it was an incestuous nest of Wisconsin people that were running the art department. They loved the good times. That's why they didn't have, I think, the patience for this. Where's the idea? Where's the content? Come on. So I went, I think I like San Jose. Not only that, I lived a lot closer to it.
That was your master's, so your bachelor's?
No, that was my MFA, my Mighty Financer. My bachelor and my MA was at San Diego State. Oh yeah, why was I there? So there I was at San Marcos JC. And I was there and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to college. I'm 30 years old now.
Palomar.
Oh, Palomar. Yes. I was 30 years old. I had just asked my daughter, what do you want? She was 14. Remember my decade plan? So she was 14. I was 30. I said, Mija, what do you want? What are you going to do? I want to go to Stanford Law. She wants to be a judge. So she went to Stanford Law. She didn't become the judge, but she did do her dream. My son, what do you want? The world peace. End the hunger. So he went on to the MFA at Columbia in New York. So those were, when I asked him those questions, I was 30. Okay, Consuelo, I think now, I didn't tell you about my decade, but that's all, I could talk forever, I told her. So, but anyway, let's get back to the question. So then the kids flew the coop. I'm gonna now go back to school. In this 10 years, what am I gonna do? I don't know. I think I wanna be an artist. What do artists do? I think they paint and sculpt. Okay, but you really want to do weaving, don't you? So I applied to both La Jolla and I applied to San Diego State. Yeah, UCSD. I got accepted in both. UCSD. Theory. Oh my God, theory. Oh my God, San Diego State, John Austin. How to spin, how to get plants and make color. I think I'm going to Joan. She was just a textile, but it was an incredible art department. So that's where I learned. I got my MA, my BA, and then I went on, and I couldn't afford, and this is a good story for the young folk, I could not afford to go to the BFA program. So I decided to, okay, I can't afford to go to the BFA. I got my bachelor's. Everybody's taking their BFA so they can get their portfolio, so they can get work, so they can get to graduate school.
What's the difference between a BA, a BFA, an MA, and an MS?
The BA is the undergraduate degree.
Right.
And the BFA is one more year of study to promote, to get your portfolio together to apply for graduate programs. So you learn about business, promotional, documentation. That's what the BFA is about. And then once you get that, then you get into the Master of Arts, or the MFA, which is 2 years normally, 30 units. This is back, these are the numbers from when I was a student. They may have changed by now. And the MFA is one more year after the MFA. So it's the highest terminal degree for a visual artist. Totally, but I have a decade. What's the problem? I don't see a problem. It's under 1 year short of my decade. I get a year off. So that's what I did. And I got into, what did I do with the BFA? I didn't take the BFA, and I went, shoot. If the BFA is just to get yourself ready to get into graduate school, I know I could make work on my own. I'm dying to do my own work. And sure enough, I came up with 10 tapestries, applied, I went to the review, and I remember being the only one with these tapestries, and these tapestries are being passed around through the professors, and they're like, wow, what's this? You know? And I got in. And Joan, I've worked with her. She took me under her wing. She crossed me into the land of art. That's when I first met Jim Bassler. He probably doesn't remember me, but she even took it because he does? Okay, good. Because he's a buds with Jim. So that's how I did my own BFA. I just did the work on my own. And with that, I got into the graduate program at San Diego State. And then we had to move, so I applied to San Jose State. And like I said, I was there 3 years. And check this, when I got there, the first job I took, because I didn't know, I knew then, okay, I'm going to be an artist. The first job I took was the gallery assistant. And it was the best class ever. It was a part-time job, but I learned how to hang work, the lighting. More importantly, I saw that the gallery director had a pile this big every day from artists. Me. Oh my God, the competition, I thought. But I knew, she's just putting those away. Who has she seen? The ones that were recommended to her by word of mouth. Or she had seen the work before herself. But not from the mail. That was the big lesson for me, is how, and I remember reading the statistics at the time that there's like 30,000 degrees of MFAs every year, and there's only 800 galleries in the US, and that most MFAers and art degree people, they can only last as artists for 3 years, because usually between 3 and 5 years, they're done with the arts. They're now managers of Burger King, or they're doing law work, whatever. But they don't do the art. Well, I don't have that much time, so I just burned it. Pardon? We'll wrap it up? All right. Any questions or comments before we close this? And I will be here for a couple hours, so feel free to come up and ask.